The clock on the wall clicked loudly. As it hit midnight, Tom stared at it, feeling the silence of the empty office building. He had just started his new job as a security guard. It was a night shift job, and his friends said he was crazy to take it. But Tom needed the money, so he didn't have a choice. The first few hours had been calm, almost boring. He had walked around the building, checking the doors and windows. Everything seemed fine. The office was huge, full of dark rooms and long hallways that stretched into the shadows. The only light came from his flashlight, which flickered from time to time, making the dark feel even darker. Tom sat back at the security desk, listening to the soft hum of the air conditioning. He tried to stay awake, sipping his coffee. But suddenly, he heard a sound. It was faint at first, like footsteps far down the hallway. He stood up. Then he grabbed his flashlight and walked toward the noise. Probably just my imagination, he whispered to himself. But deep down, he knew something wasn't right. As he walked down the hallway, the sound grew louder. Footsteps, slow and steady, echoed off the walls. Tom's heart pounded in his chest. He shined his flashlight around, but saw nothing. The hall was empty. But the sound of footsteps continued, even though there was no one there. "Who's there?" Tom called out, his voice shaky, but no answer. And the footsteps stopped. Tom stood frozen for a moment, then shook his head. "Get it together, Tom. It is just an old building and things make noise." But he couldn't shake the feeling that he wasn't alone. He turned to walk back to the security desk, but then he heard it again. This time, much closer. The footsteps were right behind him. Tom whipped around, but the hallway was empty. He stood there, his breath shallow and trying to make sense of what was happening. The footsteps stopped again. But this time, Tom wasn't sure if it was just his imagination. His heart raced faster now. He started walking back toward his desk and telling himself to stay calm. As he passed by one of the office doors, he heard a faint creak. The door slowly swung open, even though there was no wind and no one there to push it. Tom hesitated. He didn't want to go inside, but his job was to check everything. He swallowed hard and shined his flashlight into the room. It was just an ordinary office. Desks, chairs, and papers scattered about. But something felt wrong. The air in the room was heavy, like it was hard to breathe. His flashlight flickered again, and for a brief second, he thought he saw a shadow move across the back of the room. Tom froze, pointing the light toward where the shadow had been. Nothing. The room was empty. He backed out of the office slowly, and keeping his eyes on the door. "I am going crazy," he muttered under his breath. But just as he turned to walk away, he heard a whisper. It was so quiet, so he wasn't sure if he had imagined it. "Help me." Then, Tom stopped dead in his tracks. He didn't want to believe it. But the whisper was real. It came from inside the office. His mind raced. Should he go in? Call someone? His hands trembled as he gripped his flashlight tighter. He decided to leave the door open and hurry back to the security desk. He sat down and staring at the screens of the security cameras. The building looked empty, but something was off on one of the cameras. He saw a door slowly closing on its own. It was the office he had just checked. Suddenly, the whisper came again, clearer this time. "Help me." Tom couldn't ignore it anymore. Something was happening in this building, and he was at the center of it. He grabbed his radio to call the other guard on duty, Jake, but no one answered. He tried again, still nothing. It was like he was the only one left in the building. Maybe I should leave, Tom thought. But then he shook his head. He couldn't just walk out on his first night. He had to figure out what was going on. He switched to the camera that showed the back hall, a part of the building that was hardly ever used. There was an old forgotten room there. No one had gone inside in years. According to the staff, the door to that room was cracked open. Tom knew he had to check it out. Even though every part of him wanted to stay far away, he took a deep breath and walked down the long hallway toward the back of the building. The air grew colder. When the closer he got to the forgotten room, his flashlight flickered, and the lights above him buzzed like they were about to go out. When he reached the door, it was wide open. Inside, the room was covered in dust. It looked like no one had been there for years. Old furniture sat in the corners, and papers were scattered across the floor. There was a strange smell in the air, like something rotten. As Tom stepped inside, he noticed a strange symbol carved into the floor. It was a circle with odd shapes inside it, like something out of an old book of magic or a horror movie. The sight of it made his skin crawl. Suddenly, the door slammed shut behind him. Tom spun around, but the door wouldn't budge. He was trapped. Panic surged through him as he banged on the door, calling out for help, but the building was silent. Then he heard the whisper again, only this time, it was right behind him. Tom's mind raced as he stood in the dark room. The whispers had stopped, but the feeling of something watching him hadn't gone away. He had to get out of there. His flashlight flickered once more, then went out completely, and plunging him into total darkness. He fumbled with it, trying to turn it back on. But suddenly, a low voice came from the corner of the room. "You shouldn't have come here." Tom's heart nearly stopped. He spun around, shining his now working flashlight in the direction of the voice. But no one was there. Instead, he saw something even more chilling. An old photograph on the wall. The picture showed a group of people, maybe from the 1950s, standing in front of the same building he was in now. But one of the faces in the photo was scratched out, leaving a hollow, empty space where someone's head should be. Tom's hands shook as he stepped closer to the picture. Beneath it was a plaque that read, "Staff of Midnight Security, 1954. His mind started to put the pieces together. This building was much older than he thought. Maybe something had happened here a long time ago, something dark. Tom backed away from the picture, and his thoughts were racing. The whispers, the footsteps, the old photograph, it all pointed to something he didn't want to face. But as he turned to leave the room, he heard a loud bang behind him. The loud bang echoed through the room. Tom's breath hitched in his throat. As he turned slowly toward the sound, his flashlight's beam trembled, casting shaky shadows across the dusty furniture. His eyes fell on the far corner of the room, because the sound had come from there. Then, he saw something was moving. Tom squinted, and he was trying to make out the shape. At first, it seemed like just another shadow, but then it shifted, and naturally, like it wasn't part of the room at all, it slithered along the wall, stretching and changing shape, as if it were alive. Tom stumbled backward, and his back was hitting the door. He tried the handle again, desperate to escape, but the door wouldn't open. His heart pounded in his chest as he watched the shadow creep closer. It was no longer just a trick of the light. It was real, and it was coming for him. The whispers began again, but this time they were louder, angrier. "You shouldn't have come here. You shouldn't have come." Tom's head spun. He had to get out. Now. Suddenly, the shadow lunged toward him. In a blind panic, Tom swung his flashlight at it, but the light passed right through the dark figure. It moved like smoke, swirling around him, filling the room with a cold, suffocating presence. Then, as quickly as it had appeared, the shadow vanished. The room was still again, but the air felt heavy, almost like it was pushing down on Tom's chest. His flashlight flickered, casting eerie, uneven light across the room. For a moment, everything was quiet. Then, out of nowhere, the door behind him creaked open. Tom didn't think twice. He bolted out of the room, and his legs were shaking as he ran down the hallway. He didn't care where he was going, as long as it was far away from that room. But the building felt different now. The hallways seemed longer and darker. The walls seemed to close in around him. As he sprinted past the rows of empty offices, he heard something behind him. Footsteps. This time, they were running, and they were getting closer. Tom's heart raced as he turned a corner, only to find another dead end. He was trapped. The footsteps stopped. Silence filled the hallway again. Tom spun around and shone his flashlight wildly, but nothing was there. For a moment, he thought he was safe, but then, out of the darkness, a voice whispered in his ear, "They are always watching." Tom jumped, swinging his flashlight toward the sound. But again, there was nothing. His breathing was ragged now, and his body was trembling with fear. He had to figure out what was happening, why the building was haunted, and what the spirits wanted. His mind raced back to the old photograph, the scratched out face, the strange symbols on the floor. There was a story here, something dark that had happened long ago, and now the spirits of the past were trying to communicate with him. But how could he stop them? Tom knew he couldn't keep running. Whatever was haunting the building wasn't going to let him leave. Until he faced it, he had to go back to the forgotten room. That was where it all started, and he knew it would be where it all ended. With shaky hands, he gripped his flashlight and made his way back down the long and dark hallway. The shadows seemed to grow thicker around him, and the whispers followed him every step of the way, but he forced himself to keep going. When he reached the room, the door was wide open, waiting for him. Tom stepped inside, and his heart was pounding. The strange symbol was still carved into the floor, but now it seemed to glow faintly in the dark. The air was colder than before, and the smell of decay was stronger. Suddenly, the door slammed shut behind him. Tom's flashlight flickered, and the whispers grew louder, echoing off the walls. "Help us, you must help us." Tom spun around, shining his flashlight in every direction. The shadows were moving again, swirling around him like smoke. But this time, they weren't attacking him. They were gathering around the symbol on the floor. Tom took a deep breath. He didn't know what to do, but he had a feeling that the symbol was the key to all of this. If he could figure out what it meant, maybe he could stop whatever was haunting the building. He knelt down and examined the strange markings. They looked like old runes, symbols from another time. Tom's mind raced as he tried to remember anything he had read or seen that could explain them. Then it hit him. The symbol wasn't meant to summon spirits, it was meant to trap them. Tom's eyes widened as he realized the truth. The building wasn't haunted by evil spirits. It was a prison for them. Someone, long ago, had trapped the souls of the dead here and forced them to stay within the walls of the building. The spirits weren't trying to hurt him. They were trying to escape. The whispers grew louder, more desperate. "Free us, help us." Tom knew what he had to do. He had to break the symbol. It was the only way to release the spirits and end the haunting once and for all. With shaking hands, he grabbed a nearby chair and smashed it down on the floor, breaking the circle. The moment the symbol was destroyed, a cold wind swept through the room, and the shadows swirled faster and faster. Tom backed away, watching as the spirits began to fade, their whispers growing fainter and fainter. For a moment, everything was still. Then, the door to the room slowly creaked open, and the cold air vanished. The building was quiet again. Tom took a deep breath, feeling the weight lift off his chest. It was over. The spirits were free. But just as Tom was about to leave, he heard one final whisper. "Thank you, but you are not alone." Tom froze. His heart pounded in his chest. He turned slowly, shining his flashlight toward the corner of the room. And then he saw a figure, a man with no face, watching him. Tom stumbled out of the building, and the chill of the night air was hitting him like a wall. His mind was racing, trying to process everything that had happened, the spirits, the shadowy figure, the symbol. It was all too much to handle. He collapsed onto the sidewalk, gasping for breath. The street was eerily quiet, as if the world around him had paused. But then, out of the corner of his eye, he saw movement. Across the street, standing under the flickering streetlight, was the same faceless figure. Tom blinked, and his heart was pounding. How was this possible? He had freed the spirits, and the haunting should be over, but the figure was still there, watching him, waiting. Tom stood up slowly, and his legs were shaking. He didn't know what to do. Was the figure real, or was it just his mind playing tricks on him? Before he could make a decision, the figure started walking toward him. Its movements were slow, deliberate, as if it had all the time in the world. Tom's body froze with fear. He wanted to run, but his legs wouldn't move. The figure came closer and closer, its faceless head tilting slightly, as if it were studying him. And then, just as it reached the edge of the sidewalk, it stopped. Tom held his breath, waiting for something, anything to happen. But the figure didn't move. It just stood there, watching him. And then, without warning, it vanished. Tom stood there in the middle of the street. His heart was racing, and his mind was spinning. He had no idea what had just happened, or what it meant, but one thing was certain: the nightmare wasn't over. Weeks passed, but Tom couldn't shake the feeling that something was still watching him. Every night, when he returned home from his shift, he would catch glimpses of shadows, moving in the corners of his vision. The whispers that had haunted him in the building followed him, faint but persistent. Tom knew deep down that he wasn't alone. The spirits may have been freed from the building, but something had attached itself to him, something that wasn't going to let him go. No matter how far he ran, no matter how many times he tried to forget, the terror of that night would always be with him. The haunting had only just begun. My name is Lucas. I work the night shift. It is quiet, too quiet. I never like the night because everything feels strange after midnight. I work at an old building, and it is big, dark, and lonely. Every night feels the same, but tonight is different. The clock hits 12 a.m. and I hear something. It is a faint sound. Maybe it is just the wind, I think, but the sound comes closer, and it is like footsteps, slow and heavy. Then, my heart starts racing. I try to focus on my work, such as papers, files, numbers, but nothing helps. I feel like someone is watching me. Then, I stand up and look around, but no one is there. The lights flicker for a moment. Just a second. I think it is just an electrical issue because it happens sometimes. But tonight, it feels wrong. Suddenly, the door creaks open. A chill runs down my spine, and I quickly turn. The hallway is dark, and the door slowly swaying. No one should be here because I am alone. Then, my breath catches. Who opened the door? Thea grows colder, and I step closer. But I feel something, like someone's breathing behind me. I turn quickly, and I saw no one. My pulse quickens, and I rush to shut the door. Then, the footsteps stop, completely silence. Later, I try to calm down. Maybe it is just my mind playing tricks. I tell myself, it has been a long week, long nights and lack of sleep. Yeah, that must be it. Then, I get back to my desk, but the air still feels heavy and thick, like a storm is coming. The lights flicker again, and then I see a shadow moving in the corner of my eye. My heart skips a beat. I look and I see again, but nothing there. Then I walk to the window and I see outside. It's dark. Only the streetlight shines dimly, but then, in the reflection, I see a shadow standing behind me. My breath stops as I turn quickly, but again, nothing. I am alone, or am I? Their clock ticks loudly now. Each second feels like hours, and I check the time, but it is only 12:15 a.m. It is going to be a long night. I try to sit, but my chair feels cold, like ice. Then, I look around the room and scanning every corner, every shadow, but I can't shake the feeling that someone is there, watching me. The room is silent and too silent. Then I pick up the phone to call security, but before I dial, I hear a voice. It is faint and soft, but I hear it. "Get out," it says. My blood freezes because the voice is clear, but there is no one there. I drop the phone and my body shakes with fear. What is happening tonight? And then I decide to leave my desk because I need to clear my mind. Maybe I will go check the hallway. Maybe it is just a draft. After that, I walk slowly toward the door, but every step is feeling heavier. I peek outside and I see the hallway is long, dark, and empty. But wait, at the far end, something is moving, a shadow. Tall and strange is walking into the darkness. I blink as my heart is beating. Then I see it is gone again. I hear a sound behind me as the door slams shut and the air grows cold again. I try to open the door, but it is locked. How? I didn't lock it and I bang on the door, but no one answered. Now I'm trapped. The lights flicker once more. Suddenly, I feel it, a presence. Something is in the room with me. It is watching and waiting. I turn to face the darkness as the shadow moves again. This time, it is closer, much closer. I hear the whisper again, louder this time. "Get out, while you can." I try to scream, but nothing comes out. I back away. As my body trembling with fear, the shadow moves closer and slowly, but I can't move. It is like my feet are glued to the ground. The room feels smaller, tighter, like the walls are closing in. The whisper grows louder and echoing in my ears. "Who are you?" I shout, but the shadow just stands there and watching. Later, I manage to unlock the door and run to the security office. I burst in, panting, sweating. "Did you see that?" I shout. The security guard looks at me and confused. "See what?" I try to explain, but my words are jumbled. There was a shadow, a voice, something in the building. The guard frowns and looks uneasy. He sighs and says, "You are not the first to say that. This place has a history." I freeze. What history? He looks around, leans in close, and whispers, "Years ago, someone died here, a worker. It was late at night. People say they still see him, wandering these halls. His spirit never left." My body chills. "Why didn't you tell me this before?" The guard shrugs. Most don't believe it. But every now and then, strange things happen. Some say it is him. Others say something darker. I sit down, and my heart is racing. How do I stop it? The guard looks at me. His eyes are dark. "You don't. You just survived the night." Back at my desk, I can't concentrate. My mind races. Who was the worker? What happened to him? Why is he haunting? The lights flicker again. I hear footsteps down the hall, but this time they are faster, louder, and coming closer. I grab my phone and run to the stairwell. I need to leave. I can't stay here. But as I reach the stairs, I hear a crash behind me. The door slams shut again. My body freezes. I hear a voice, but this time, it is not a whisper. It is a scream, the kind that chills your bones. I run down the stairs, but the air feels thick. My legs feel heavy, like I am moving through water. Every step is harder than the last. I reach the bottom of the stairs, but when I open the door, I am not in the lobby. I am back on my floor. My breath stops. How? I just came down the stairs. I turn and look at the steps, but something is wrong. The stairs aren't there, and the doorway behind me is gone. The hall in front of me stretches longer, darker, and the air is cold, colder than before. I walk forward slowly, as my heart is pounding. Shadows twist and move on the walls, as if something feels alive in the darkness. Then I see it again, that same shadow, but this time, it is not just a figure, it is a face. The shadow turns toward me, and its eyes glowing faintly in the dark. My body freezes, and I want to scream, but nothing comes out. The face grins, wide and unnatural. The voice echoes around me again, this time louder, clearer. You shouldn't have stayed. I step back, but the hallway behind me closes off. The walls are closing in. There is nowhere to run. The shadow steps forward, closer and closer. The air grows so cold, and I can see my breath. You are not real, I shout, but the shadow just laughs. Its voice is deep and mocking. I try to move, but my feet won't budge. The ground beneath me feels like ice, and holding me in place. I close my eyes, trying to wake up from this nightmare. But this isn't a nightmare. This is real, and it is happening now. The shadow looms over me, and I can feel its cold breath on my neck. I open my eyes, and it is standing right in front of me. It reaches out, and its hand is dark and misty, almost like smoke, but I can feel its cold fingers touching my skin. I shiver, fear rushing through me. What do you want? I scream, trying to pull away, but the shadow holds me still. Its eyes glow brighter, and for the first time, I hear it speak clearly. You took something from me, it says in a voice that sounds like 100 whispers. Now, I take from you. I shake my head. I didn't take anything. I don't even know you. The shadow leans closer. Its face inches from mine. I can feel the cold radiating from it. You are in my space. This is my place. Suddenly, I remember the security guard's words. The worker, the one who died here. Could this be him? You were the worker. I say softly, my voice trembling. The one who died, right here. The shadow's eyes flash. For a second, it looks human. I see pain, anger, and something else, sorrow. I didn't mean to, the shadow whispers. They left me here. They forgot me. The shadow's grip loosens. Just a little, then, I see my chance. I am not here to hurt you, I say, trying to keep my voice calm, but you are scaring me. The shadow looks at me. Its face is unreadable. I just want to rest, it says, and for the first time, it sounds tired. Suddenly, the cold starts to fade. The shadow steps back, dissolving into the darkness. Let me go, it whispers, before disappearing completely. I stand there, breathing hard. The air is warm again, and the hallway is back to normal. But something feels different. It is over. Also, I think. I stand there as I froze in the hallway. The shadow is gone. The air is warm again. But I can't shake the feeling that something is still wrong. I walk slowly back to my desk, and my heart is still pounding. The building feels empty. Too empty. I sit down and trying to calm myself, but as I reach for the phone to call the security guard, I notice something strange. On the desk, where my papers used to be, is a small, old photo. I pick it up, and my hands start to shake. It's a picture of the building from years ago. The same office, but much older. In the picture, I see a man. He's wearing an old uniform. The kind workers used to wear here. His face looks familiar. Too familiar. It is the shadow. I flip the photo over, and there is writing on the back. It says, "Don't forget me." My stomach drops. I put the photo down quickly. As my hands are trembling, I turn to leave, but the lights flicker one last time. The cold rushes back, stronger than before. And then, I hear it, the whisper, clear, loud, and right next to my ear. "See you tomorrow." The lights go out. Darkness surrounds me. And I know, this isn't over. The next day, I couldn't stop thinking about the shadow. Who was he really? Why was he haunting the building? I needed answers. I went to the local library, searching for anything about the old office. What I found shocked me. Years ago, a worker disappeared during a late shift. People said it was an accident, but there were rumors strange things had happened. In the building for years, workers heard voices, shadows followed them. Some even said they saw people who weren't there. I kept reading. The name of the missing worker was John Mitchell. He was a night guard, just like me. One night, he didn't come home. His family searched, but they never found him. They said he disappeared into thin air, but I knew the truth now. He didn't disappear. He was still there. Watching, waiting. I tried to quit my job. I couldn't stay in that building anymore, but something strange happened. Every time I tried to leave, something pulled me back. I felt like I was trapped, just like John Mitchell. On my last night, I decided to leave for good, but before I could go, the lights flickered again. The air turned cold, and there, standing in the doorway, was the shadow. But this time, it didn't say anything. It just stared at me. I knew what it wanted. It wanted me to stay. And deep down, I knew I could never leave. If you like this video, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel. Please share this video with your friends and family too. Thanks.